There's no way that Donald Trump ran for office expecting to bomb the leadership of Iran out of existence. I think what they saw was what they considered to be an opportunity that was simply too good to pass up.
Let's get some US perspective on these strikes on Iran. Delighted to be joined by Mick Mulvaney, who was Trump's former head of staff under his first administration. Mick, thanks very much for joining us. Hello, Mick Mulvaney, are you there?
I am indeed.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. So, yeah, I mean, let's get just where do you think things are right now, Mick? What are your thoughts?
Oh, boy, goodness gracious, where to start? A couple of things. I've been asked over here on the American media if I thought this was the plan all along. I think you can sort of put that issue to bed. There's no way that Donald Trump ran for office expecting to bomb the leadership of Iran out of existence. I think what they saw was what they considered to be an opportunity that was simply too good to pass up, a combination of things. I was on TV here last night, I guess, with John Bolton, who was the national security advisor with me in the White House during the first term. And he was all excited about the attack. Of course, he's been calling for it for decades.
Yeah.
And he said, we should have done it in the first term. And my comment was, well, you know, John, that things are different on the ground now. With Gaza, things are different. After the attack on the Natanz facility, things are different. And certainly the political situation on the ground in Iran is different than it was 7 or 8 years ago. So I think all of those things came together. And then they had the intelligence, as I think it's been broadly reported now, on most of the senior leadership being together in one place. That makes no sense to me, but they paid the price for that. So you put it all together. And I think it was just something that the Trump administration couldn't pass up on. It's a once in a generational chance to change the arc of history in the Middle East, and they took it.
Now, this thing about changing the arc of history in the Middle East, we know that this has been tried before. You know, the Middle East is an incredibly difficult area after 9/11. America, supported by United Kingdom, went in to try and change history. But of course, it's very, very difficult to get sustained regime change, particularly without boots on the ground. Do you think that there is a longer term plan here, Mick, or do you think that the aim was just to take out those top people, particularly the Ayatollah?
Your point is well made, and I think at least the American intelligence community, the leadership, the military establishment learned a lesson in Iraq when they went through de-Baathification. They essentially removed everybody in the country who I think was capable of running the place, and you end up with a quasi-failed state on the backside. And the other end of the spectrum, you just saw the activity in Venezuela, where the United States went in and very surgically removed one person, actually two, president and his wife. I think they would like to see Iran be develop more on the sort of the system that they developed in Venezuela, where they're not going to go in and remove the entire leading class. They're hoping there is somebody there who can run this country, or at least a group of people that might be able to run Iran in a way that is much more compatible with international values and so forth. So I don't think you'll see them do the exact same thing in Iraq. Clearly, they couldn't do the same thing they did in Venezuela. But if one or the other provides a model, they would like Venezuela, I think, to be a model for their activity in Iran. What does that mean? That means no boots on the ground, with the possible exception of something related to the nuclear operation, and then encouraging domestic political development in a way, again, that's more aligned with international norms.
Although, of course, that's the thing that everybody would like to see. It's just a question of is that possible, and if what comes next for the people of Iran, who've been incredibly brave, but they have often just been met with bullets and worse in terms of the retaliation. And the other thing I wanted to ask you as well is, what do you think is going to be the consequence on oil prices? Because Iran, of course, is wanting to really limit the traffic through the Straits of Hormuz. And we just spoke with a previous correspondent that oil markets will be opening tomorrow. There's midterms coming up. You know, Trump will want to keep, oil at a low price. How worried do you think Trump and his colleagues will be about the repercussions of this on the oil price?
Yeah, listen, what you've just laid out makes complete sense. And of course, it won't be a surprise that if you've done what you've done in the last 48 hours in Iran, it could have a dramatic impact on the price of oil. Regarding the shutting of the Straits of Hormuz, I think the most interesting, not the most interesting, but it will be interesting to watch the next 3, 4, 5 days to see what the reaction is right from Iran. I think if you see a continued aggressive response and retaliation, that doesn't necessarily bode well for the next sort of the face of the next leadership team in Iran. If you see it start to slow down, see overtures maybe for reaching out to the U.S. and the other countries in the region about having talks and so forth, that could bode extraordinarily well. But that's not your question. Your question was oil. It's going to go up. There's no question. I've seen projections as much as $100 a barrel, and does that create its own political consequences in the U.S. and around the world? Yes, it does. I think what if you ask Donald Trump the question, what he'd say is, look, we're interested in having Iran get back into the business of making oil as quickly as we possibly can. If the new leadership there is favorable to us, we might be able to remove sanctions relatively quickly and welcome them back into the international markets. Right now, I think 100% of Iranian crude goes to China. The Trump administration would also point out to you that completely separately from what's happening in the Gulf, they are already looking at fairly significant, not dramatic, but fairly significant increases in oil production out of Venezuela. I know it's not the same type of oil. I don't know. I know it doesn't have the same application, but it does increase the overall global supply of the goods. So that would have some ameliorating impact on prices. But your point is well made. Prices are going to go up in the short term. I think if you ask Trump to sum it up in one sentence, he would say that it was worth it.
Okay. And look, just in terms of, his general approach to foreign policy in this second term, you, of course, worked with him under his first administration. He was very clear about saying he didn't want to have lots of foreign adventures and didn't want to have these pointless foreign wars, and is engaged in a lot of geopolitical activity. What do you think his kind of orthodoxy is when it comes to geopolitics?
Yeah, my general rule on Donald Trump is he's 80 years old. You're not going to change him. And that non-interventionist sort of fabric is woven into his system. He is not a neoconservative. He's not been hiding in the bushes and now he's the second coming of George Bush or Hillary Clinton. That's not what's happening here. I think, again, if you were to ask him, what he'd say is, well, the attack on Natanz 6 months ago was a one-off. It was a surgical strike. It was, one attack. It's not an endless foreign war. Venezuela, similarly, they went in, they get out. There's no long-term engagement. As of now, still remains to be seen. There's several moves to play out yet in Venezuela. Here, it's harder to make the case. It really is. In fact, I think in just the last couple of hours, I think we've seen reports now of the first American deaths, military deaths, and other casualties as part of this activity. It's going to be more difficult for him to sort of put this, politically at least, in the same category as Venezuela and the attack on the nuclear facility several months ago. But that being said, if there's quick successes, if there's a quick regime change, if the things that start to happen as a result of this are positive and rapid, then I think Trump could look his hand over and say, look, this is not a forever war. This is not the next Afghanistan. In his mind, it's not the next Vietnam. But that remains to be seen. I think you could make the case very easily for the first attack in Iran and Venezuela. This is another kettle of fish. I think there's a lot of the story left to be told.